So thanks for sharing, and I do miss having you around.
I just wanted to build on a few previous questions, and it was about Elmore's research that you alluded to before and class size. So how do you see yourself providing leadership around that? Because the teacher's relationship with the child is critical, and so class size is a big difference between relating from 1 to 18 or 20 children to 1 to 40. I mean, it's almost having taught that many in my early career.
Sure. Yeah, we have a number of initiatives in place. Certainly from the perspective of working, I get to work with all of the stakeholder groups across the state, whether it's with the superintendent's groups or the principals groups, and we're working on designing a new teacher residency program for teachers coming out of teacher prep programs. In all of those capacities, we continue to talk about the importance of Elmore's work. In fact, we've had several school districts engaged with Harvard University for the past several years, and they've been engaged in his work to talk through what does that look like? How do you know when effective instruction is going on in the schools? What does that mean as a principal when I'm walking through a building? Do I look at effective instruction the same way that my colleague might look at it? So we have a number of initiatives across the state. I think the other thing that we're doing is we were the only state in the country to adopt standards for superintendents. Several states have followed suit, but Ohio was the first to do that. We also have new standards for principals. And the Educator Standards Board is also working on standards for teachers that will actually be folded into a model teacher performance review. So each of those areas includes a whole focus on the teacher-student relationship and what that means in relationship to the content of the class that's being taught. So we're lifting that up even more. And you'll find that if you begin to look at some of the performance reviews of teachers and principals across the state, that more and more of them are incorporating that into how people's performance is being reviewed. That relationship is so vital.
How you doing, State Superintendent Delisle? I have a question, and mine is regarding, I noticed you kept referencing zip code and how children in zip codes should not be neglected. Well, I'm in zip code 44108. And in 44108, we were supposed to have Charles Lake, which would have been a new building, and $1.6 million was earmarked to Charles Lake, and the Cleveland School Board accepted that money in July. Then in September, they came and decided that they weren't going to build Charles Lake. Now, my question is, since the transformation program has been approved, you are completely eliminating Ward 8 from educating their children. So how will you help Ward 8 in zip code 44108?
Well, first of all, thank you, and I will memorize your zip code. And really use it as an example because it's a really important one. First of all, when I'm talking about the quality of the education of a child, it's not about the school building. And the Ohio Department of Education, when you said you, I'm a little uncertain what you were referencing, but the Ohio Department of Education doesn't dictate school buildings in school districts. That's between the school district, and if they're using Ohio School Facilities monies, that's coming from another arm of another agency within the state government. One of the things that we've been working on is, in terms of this quality of education piece to which I referenced, was this whole piece on increasing the standards, ensuring that teachers have the capacity to meet those standards and to instruct students in a way that's meaningful to each student where they're at, providing them with the data that they need that we receive from the state, as well as helping local school districts to make informed decisions about the kinds of assessments that they're using. So part of our Race to the Top, for example, is paying for the development of formative assessments, which just simply means benchmark tests along the way throughout the course of the year so that teachers are aware of how students are progressing as opposed to waiting till the end of the school year when they can no longer do anything about it because the test is done and so is the school year. So those are the kinds of initiatives that we have going on at the Ohio Department of Ed. It's to build and support the capacity of folks at the local level to do the work.
Hi, my name is Joseph Anderson from Martin Luther King Career Campus, and I'm part of the Students of Promise. My question is, and I know that the schools of CMSD are being reformed, and you are working toward getting all students to graduate. How do you think the reform is going to affect the students who are currently juniors and sophomores with the two high schools, which are South and East High, being closed due to this?
I think I'm going to go back to focus on ensuring, or certainly working with Dr. Stanners and his team to ensure that no matter where the students of CMSD are educated, that they are educated in a way that's really meaningful and providing support and intervention for those students. So your question on the, I think you said sophomores and juniors in high school, what's really critical is that we could have intervention programs early on to get kids up to reading at a level that's commensurate with their ability. But at the high school level, there are some kids who are already behind the 8 ball, and they may be missing credits. We've got to work really diligently in every single community to ensure that we have intervention programs and support systems for those students. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. We have got to ensure that every single adult working with children in our schools in Ohio, every adult has high expectations for students, and that they're not setting them up for failure, but rather they're saying to them, I believe you can do this work, and I'm going to show you and support you in doing that work. So it's about the quality of that teacher, not the actual physical building.
Hi, Dr. Delisle. I'm actually a teacher. I'm Andrea's mother, but I'm also a teacher in the.
Thank you. Excellent. You're obviously an excellent mom.
I'm very fortunate. I'm also a teacher in North Olmsted. I teach 7th grade language arts. So I have a question about performance assessments, and these are, of course, associated with 21st century learning environments. They take time. So with so much at stake on these OAA tests, the pencil paper traditional test, how do teachers find time to do performance-based testing or authentic learning when there is so much pressure on us to perform on these OAA tests?
Mm-hmm. That's one of the issues that we're dealing with the 21 school districts who are serving as models of that, is what is that looking like in each school district so that we could learn best, as opposed to just stretching this across the state without having promising practices or a series of reference points to say, you know, these 5 districts looked at common planning time this way, or these 7 school districts or high schools rescheduled their building in such a way to provide time for teachers to do that. That's really one of the primary purposes of that initiative. And again, I know I keep referencing Race to the Top. That's one of our ambitious goals, is to have school districts at the local level really decide that if this is important enough, how do we craft the teacher's day around that, so we're not expecting the teacher to do it at 7 o'clock at night or on Saturday. But how do you inform that within the scope of the day? And I just have to share this story because this is priceless out of the mouths of babes, and I apologize for taking a couple minutes on this. I was at a school district 2 days ago. It was an elementary school, and I want to bring it up because it's testing and assessment, but this is where our students are at. And it happened to be a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a renovated building, and it's just kind of simply almost becoming the former principal of a building, watching all the kids interact. It was a K-5 building. And I saw this little pint-sized girl running up and down the aisles, and she had a program for me, and she gave me the program, and I thought she'd stand at the door and give out the programs. No, not Zoe. She was running up and down the aisles, making sure that the senior citizens in the front were comfortable and somebody else knew where the bathroom was. She was working the room. So she came up to me, and she did not know who I was, and I started talking to her, and I asked her what grade she was in, and she said she was in 5th, and of course I said, well, you're getting ready for 6th grade for middle school, and she looked at me and said, well, I'm not quite sure I'll make it. I said, really? What's up with that? And she said, well, I have to take the OAT, that Ohio Achievement Test, and if I do really well on that, which is a misrepresentation of the test, but if I do well, I'm going to go to 6th grade. She goes, oh, you know what, let me correct that. They changed the name of that to the OAA. I thought, well, I'm the state superintendent. I didn't even know they changed the name of it. Okay, thanks for sharing that. So I said, really, what does that stand for? She said, Ohio Achievement Assessment. She said, but you know what? That's the wrong name. I said, really? She said, that's not an assessment. It's a test. So I said, well, what's the difference? She said, a test is 1 day. You do it, you're done. No feedback, you're done. You're done with the test. That's it. She said, an assessment, on the other hand, this is the exact quote. The assessment, on the other hand, is one that your teacher gives you. She tells you after the assessment what it is that you do well, what you don't do well. She helps you. She gives you another assessment a couple months later. She tells you what you did well, what you improved upon, and she keeps going. It's an assessment. That's the wrong name. I said, thank you for sharing with me. I said, I'm the state superintendent. I'll have to take it back to the Department of Education.
Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a special program featuring Deborah Delisle, Superintendent of Public Instruction for the Ohio Department of Education. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. This forum is now adjourned.